So, in the previous lecture I talked about non-inertial frame, where the frame accelerates in a particular direction, linear acceleration with respect to inertial frame of reference. So, I talked what kind of pseudo force is needed in such a situation if you want to use this non-inertial frame and still apply Newton's laws. Today I will be talking of another kind of non-inertial frame, where the frame will rotate with respect to an inertial frame. So, if some object rotates, you can talk of the axis of rotation, so that all points of that object go in circles around that axis. The centers of the circles are all at that particular line, which we call axis of rotation. So, when I say rotating frame of reference, I have in mind some kind of an object or x, y, z axis which are rigidly connected to each other, and that makes the object, and this whole thing rotates about some axis of rotation. Generally we take this axis of rotation as the z axis, and therefore the x axis and the y axis, they rotate about the z axis, and this z axis itself is fixed in inertial frame of reference. And you also fix x y axis of inertial frame reference, with respect to which you will see that the x y axis of the rotating frame they rotate. So, here I have a disc, and we can create a rotating frame of reference from this disc. Let us say that this is z axis, this line, vertical line is z axis, and x and y axis you can draw on this disc. So, let us draw a line and say that this is x axis, and then I draw a perpendicular line and say that this is y axis, and then they intersect here, and this is the origin, and from here this is z axis. So, this one is x axis, you can see this is x axis, I have written x here, and then another line here, this is y axis, and this is z axis fixed with this disc. Now, so what happens if the disc rotates? In the lap frame I take as the inertial frame of reference, and in this, if this disc rotates, and I say that my x axis and y axis are these. So, if I have to find the coordinates of a particle, I will still write x, y, z as refer to these three lines, even if it rotates. So, in that frame of reference, that gives you the position, and if that position changes with time, you get velocity. If that velocity changes with time, you get acceleration, all seen from these rotating x, y axis. All right, this is a non-inertial frame, and you do not expect Newton's law to really work. So, let us see some of the things here. Suppose you have this rotating frame, now it is rotating, neglect any wobble, etc. So, let me rotate it. This is now rotating frame of reference, and I put this piece of chalk somewhere here, and you see that it falls. I just place it here and it falls. Right? So, it falls. So, in what direction it has gone? I put it here and it falls. So, that means the distance from the axis has increased. I put it here near the rim, let us say here on the y axis, somewhere here. I put it here, but as time passes I find that it falls. That means it has gone away from this axis. Now, what can force it to go in this direction? If I treat this as inertial frame of reference, use Newton's law, the language of Newton's law, if it has gone away from this z axis, there must have been a force in that direction. The resultant force must have a component in that direction. There is nothing which can provide such a force. Weight is vertical, normal contact force because of this is vertical. If it is sliding in this direction, friction, if any, has to be opposite to the velocity. So, the friction, if it is there, it has to be opposite to the velocity, which is certainly not outward. So, there is no force, no real force on this particle that I put here in the direction away from the axis, but still it falls, that means it is going away from the axis. So, if I want to use Newton's laws, I will say that a pseudo force acts in this rotating frame, and that pseudo force is away from the axis, and that will happen in all rotating frames. If you do the dynamics of a particle from the rotating frame, there will be a force away from the axis of rotation, and that force is known as centrifugal force. So, what is the magnitude of this centrifugal force? Direction we have worked out. The magnitude of the centrifugal force is given by this expression. Write force centrifugal. This, the magnitude is mass of the particle, and then omega, this is the angular velocity of the frame, and times r. What is this m? This is mass of the particle which you are discussing. And then this omega is angular speed of the frame. This is very important, not of the particle, of the frame. And this r is the distance of the particle from the axis of rotation of the frame. Okay. So, these three symbols have these meanings, and that has to be understood very clearly. This especially, we are not talking of the particle's velocity, particle's acceleration, we are talking of particle's position, but not of velocity. This velocity is here, angular speed omega is here, and this is the angular speed of the frame which is rotating. So, here is one experiment. In this I have a perspex disc. The disc is mounted on the spindle of a motor, and from this disc these threads are hanging, and then in the threads these balls are attached here. So, if I use the lap frame, everything is fine, vertical tension in the thread balances the weight, and hence each of the ball is at rest. Of course, they are oscillating little bit, but never mind. Now, if I rotate this disc and see what happens with respect to the disc. So, watch out for the balls. So, I am giving power to this motor so that it will start rotating, and you see what happens to the balls. Each ball has gone up and also gone outward, away from the axis of rotation. Gives you a feel of an umbrella type of structure. Slows down, the angle with the vertical is gradually decreasing, still slant. So, if I analyze this motion from the lap frame, the mathematics can be really complicated, but analyzing from the disc frame, it is fairly simple, at least qualitatively. The disc rotates with an angular speed which increases in the beginning as I switch on this motor. So, the angular speed itself is increasing in the beginning and in decreasing at in the final phase of the experiment. And this changing angular speed or angular acceleration of the frame, that itself can give some extra pseudo forces, but never mind, we do not need that for the qualitative explanation. So, what happens if the disc rotates with some angular velocity omega, then in the disc frame you have a centrifugal force which is outward, away from the center. Mass of the ball, omega of the disc squared, and then the distance from the axis. You have that centrifugal term expression here, m into omega square into r. So, this force acts away from the axis on each of the ball. So, if the ball goes in this direction, the string becomes slant, it makes some angle with the vertical, and therefore, this tension will have a component in vertical direction and a component in horizontal direction. Now, if this tension is high, which it is, the vertical component is more than the weight, that takes it up, and the horizontal component is less than the centrifugal force. So, that resultant takes it outward. Remember, to start with, the angle is small, and therefore, because of that cos theta effect, sin theta effect, this horizontal component of the tension will be small and vertical component will be large, and the magnitude of T can be such that vertical component is more than mg and the horizontal component is less than m omega square r. So, it goes away and also it goes up. So, it makes some angle with the vertical and then keeps that position with respect to the disc as the disc rotates. Here is another experiment. In this, I have a long tube closed at one end and closed at the other end using this cork. In this tube, I have water and some foam particles which are floating here, you can see, and then there are some red colored stone particles at the bottom of this tube, and this tube is fixed on this aluminum disc. The disc can be mounted on the spindle of this motor, and I am doing that. So, now the disc is on the spindle of that motor and I can rotate this disc just by hand. So, now you see the positions of these foam particles, the stone particles, and also there is some air. So, also see the position of this air. So, you have foam particle distributed here, 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 here and here. Stone particles are also distributed, they are here, 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 here. So, these are the stone particles. One small particle I can see somewhere here, one small particle I can see somewhere here. Now, if I rotate this disc, you see where do these things go? Just see where they are, where the foam particles are, where the air bubble is, and where the stones are. Once this stops, the positions will change. See where the foam particles are and where the air bubble is and where the stone particles are. The foam particles are in the middle, the bubble is also in the middle, and the stone particles, you can search where the stone particles are. Some of the particles are here at this end and some of the stone particles are here at this end. To start with, the stone particles were distributed in the middle from here to here, and due to rotation some particles have gone this side, some particles have gone this side. The foam particles were also distributed in the tube, and you saw during the rotation that all those foam particles came near the center. In fact, the air was right at the center and the foam particles were on the two sides of that bubble. See it again. Alright, so let us start from here. The stone particles are here, some particles are here, some particles are here, and the foam particles are here, air bubble is somewhere distributed. Now, as it rotates, you see what happens to these foam particles. They will be collected, this air bubble will come in the middle, the foam particles will be collected on the two sides, and of course the stones will go at the end. See the foam particles and the air bubble. The air bubble is right at the middle and the foam particles on the two sides of the air bubble, and all your stone particles are at the end. See where the stone particles are. Some particles are here and some particles are here. So, how do I analyze? If I am using disc frame, I must use centrifugal force together with other real forces and then use Newton's second law. Now, if I think of stone particles, the centrifugal force will be away from the center. So, if the particles are on the right of the center, stone particles, the centrifugal force will be towards right. If the particle to start with is on the left of the center, then the centrifugal force is towards left. In each case, it is away from the center, and therefore, some of the stone particles get collected at the right end and some of these stone particles get collected at the left end. So, that centrifugal force is responsible for taking these things on the two sides if I am using disc frame, that is fine. But what about foam particles? For foam particles also, the centrifugal force is away from the axis, but we see that the particles which were distributed in this tube, they all came closer to the center. In fact, the air particles or air bubble, which was to start with at some end, that also came into the center. So, that means density is playing the role. Stones are denser, foam is less dense, and air is least dense of these three. So, the least dense things is coming right at the center, and then these foams are close to the center after this air bubble on the two sides of the air bubble, and the stone which have highest density, they are going really towards the ends. So, how does density matter? Now, think of a tube filled with water. Suppose I have a tube which is completely filled with water and that is fixed in this rotating frame. What will happen? All the parts of water, they will be fixed in this frame and they are at rest in this frame, but the centrifugal force still acts. If I am using disc frame, centrifugal force still acts. So, if I have water here which is fixed with respect to this rotating disc and I am using the rotating disc for my analysis, I have to apply a centrifugal force away from the center, still it is at rest. So, there must be a real force towards the center, and that real force does exist, and that is because of the difference of pressure of water between different layers. If this water is at rest in this inertial frame, then in any horizontal line the pressure is same everywhere. But if I rotate, then even if I am thinking of pressure at different points in the same horizontal level, same horizontal line, the pressures are different, and the pressure is more on the right side or left side away from the center, and pressure is minimum at the center. If you analyze these things from inertial frame of reference, then also you can see it. If water is rotating, now I am using lap frame, so water is rotating. So, the portion of water which I am thinking of is going in a circle, and if something goes in a circle, the acceleration is towards the center and there must be a resultant force towards the center. And since I am using inertial frame, no pseudo forces. So, there must be a real force which is forcing this piece of water, this portion of water towards the center, and therefore, the pressure on the right of this and pressure on the left of this should be different, and the pressure on the right should be more, pressure on the left should be less, or pressure towards the center side should be smaller and the pressure in the edge side should be larger, so that you have a resultant force towards the center. So, if I am from inertial frame, this resultant force takes this water mass into circle. If I use the disc frame, then this real force, pressure difference force and the centrifugal force balance each other, and in that frame this portion remains at rest. So, there is a definite real force towards the center, and that is there because pressure difference is there, whether you put a stone there or you put foam there or you have air there, whatever it is, this pressure, because of the pressure difference, there is a force inside. Alright, so let me do it on the board. Suppose you have a tube here which is closed at the two ends, it is completely filled with water, and then this is the axis and this is rotating like this, and I am thinking of say this portion of water. So, there is some mass of this, and this mass which I will write dm water, this mass times omega square r, this is the centrifugal force which acts, or I have to take that term, it does not act because I am in non-inertial frame, so I am using it, but I will use that same language. This centrifugal force acts in this direction, but in that non-inertial frame this water mass is at rest, and hence the real force which comes because of the pressure difference here and here, pressure is more here, pressure is less here. So, there is a net force towards the center because of this pressure difference, and that must balance this, so that it remains at rest. This water mass remains at rest in this non-inertial frame. So, this is the centrifugal force that I am using, and then I have a force because of that pressure difference, and that force which you can write say F P because of pressure difference. This F P must be equal to this dm W times omega square into r. Omega is the rotational velocity, angular velocity of the frame, remember. Now, if you have a stone here of the same shape, let us say, what happens? if you have a stone here, then the centrifugal force is this in this direction, and that centrifugal force will be dm stone and omega square r. This will be centrifugal force, and the pressure difference force will remain the same. Pressure difference force that is in this direction, that remains the same. Why should it remain the same? Because it's a pressure difference. It's a how water is behaving here. What is the pressure here? What is the pressure here? So that remains the same. The centrifugal force has increased because stone is denser than water. So for the same volume, for the same shape, dm of water will be smaller, dm of stone will be larger. So centrifugal force is more than pressure difference force. The resultant force as seen from this rotating frame is towards right in this diagram, away from the axis of rotation, and hence the stone particles will go towards the end. Whereas if you have foam particle, what happens? Once again, the pressure difference force remains the same, that is because of water, and the centrifugal force in that case is this of foam, and then into omega square times r, and that is towards right. So the centrifugal force is mass of that foam particle and then omega square r. So for the same volume, same shape of water mass here, the centrifugal force is this. For the same volume of foam mass here, the centrifugal force is smaller. Fp remaining the same, centrifugal force is smaller, and this pressure difference force is larger. The resultant force will be towards left. This will be towards left. Let me draw a small arrow here. So the resultant force will be towards the center, and the foam particles will be driven towards the center. Same happens with air particle. There, this mass equivalent of the same volume will be even smaller. So in such a situation, the particles which have density more than water will go away from the axis, and the particles which have densities smaller than water will come towards the center.